Welcome back to another episode of My Legacy Garage. Today, how do you sell a used car that's been well used? A friend of ours is trying to get rid of this car and she doesn't really know what to do. So I said, hey, I'll sell it for you. So I thought, this would be a good opportunity to show you guys what I do to sell a used car. Not one of the relics I drag out of a barn or out of the woods or out of somebody's yard, but just a regular old used car. There's tricks that you can do that make it look the best that it can be without deceiving somebody, because you don't want to do that. So let's dig in and I'll show you what it takes. If you follow me on Instagram, well, you've already seen this car. I put a funny meme up saying parked 15 minutes will it start, because the blue oval in the front, you just never know. So I guess it's time to try it, because we're going to have to move it around the other side of the garage here to work on it. There's some weird noises, but it runs. Now, when I deal with a used car, I kind of just go over it and see, what can I fix pretty cheap and easy, and what is, a little more involved. So, for example, it's got a little rust spot here. It's got some dents right here, actually some creases in this body line. And then it's got some rust back here in this wheel well. I'm not going to do anything with dents because that's going to require a few layers of Bondo and sanding, and I don't want to mess with all that. But I think the two rust spots, I'm going to take care of that because that's easy enough to do. And a real good cleaning, give it a good washing. That's really important. Especially, some of that super clean all-wheel cleaner. And, this black plastic, it's a used car. You could go on and on. But you can do a few simple things just to make it more appealing, and so that somebody who buys it is not going to feel dumb driving it. I always pop the hoods, and I just look around in here and look for anything that's obviously wrong. Missing pieces, broken connectors, wires that look like they've been chewed on by gophers, anything goofy like that. And this all looks pretty good. The belt looks pretty good. Battery's a little bit old, but it's still fired after sitting for a while. I check all the fluids. I checked the oil and transmission fluid. That was fine. Brake fluid's fine. Antifreeze is a little bit low, so I'm probably going to have to add some antifreeze to it. Other than that, just a good cleaning in here is all you need to do. And I'll show you a little trick for, making it sparkle a little bit once we're done with that. Rust. The scourge of automobiles everywhere. How do you deal with it? So, it's not as terrible around here as in some parts of the country, but as you can see, she's ate up here. So, how do we make that look as good as we can? And the answer is, well, basically, you try and sand it up the best you can, and you try and hide it a little bit. You don't want to fill a whole car full of Bondo, but fixing a rust spot, that's not really the end of the world. And it's not like I'm going to fix it so that it's, invisible, because I'm not. But I am going to try and make it a little more appealing to the eye, so it doesn't just scream, ooh. We're going to take some 80 grit here and try and clean this up a little bit. Well, maybe that door doesn't work. Either way, I want to not get this door because I'm going to eventually paint this probably up to about there and blend it in. And that way it won't look quite so hideous. That's probably good enough for what we're doing. Now, if you wanted to really fix this for real, you would have to actually cut this section out, probably right along right here, and then weld a new piece in. Now, if you wanted to fix it like halfway okay, you could put some sort of a fiberglass backer in here to kind of reform it, and then Bondo it and sand it out, and then it would be really well hidden. But you know, it's really just a temporary fix. If you want it fixed for real, you got to weld new metal in. This, we're looking for, let's prevent it from getting worse and make it look as good as it can while it has a rust hole in it. Next step, listen, you don't want to just paint over rust. You want to neutralize it. You got to put a little rust neutralizer on it. Don't be afraid to really, you know, get it up in there, because that's what's gonna stop that rusting process. I'm gonna go ahead and let that kind of set up. We'll move on to something else in the meantime. While we're waiting for the rust treatment to dry, and I mean, you gotta put that on 2 or 3 times, so it's a process. I won't bore you with it, but while that's doing its thing, we're gonna vacuum some of the junk out of the engine bay so that we can clean it and shine it up. So let's get going. Well, there you have it. You get all the dust and dirt and dead leaves and bugs and stuff like that out of here. It already looks better. But wait, there's more. We have other things to do first, though. You're gonna have to wait to see the trick. Now that this has dried, we can go ahead and put our self-etching primer on there. This is technically bare metal here now, so you want to be able to do that. And before you do that, you're gonna want to use cleaner, degreaser, and get any sort of grease or dirt or anything like that off of there. We'll go ahead and let that cure up a little bit, and then we'll put some sanding primer on top of that. We'll probably go ahead and mask stuff off, I guess. It doesn't really matter for this thing, because you can just take a rag and wipe it off with a clear coat after you spray it, and it's not going to hurt anything, you know, in the jams here where nobody's going to see it. But I guess we'll mask it just to make it look pretty and, you know, do it right and all that fun stuff. Well, I'm kind of stuck waiting for stuff to dry now, and plus I need to get some material for those door panels. So I think that's where we're going to cut it for today. We'll see you tomorrow, where we're going to tackle those door panels and finish up the paint repair and give this thing a bath, because it's filthy. And everybody knows shine is what brings the money. See you tomorrow. Here we are. It's not exactly, you know, the next day, but it's like the next weekend. I'm busy. We're gonna see if we can't fix this thing up a little bit more today. We're gonna start by cleaning it, because it's grody and it needs a real good bath. Clean the wheels up nice on it, and then we'll kind of see what we got and how far we really want to go with it, or if we just want to be like, send it down the road. Let's go ahead and dig in and get it done. Just to give you a quick you know, before and after. It's pretty filthy, but I think that we can shine her up pretty decent here. Oh, clean up in the engine bay here too. It's straight up a filthy vehicle though. Hasn't been driven much for years now, so we're gonna see if we can't straighten that up. Use a little bit of our super clean all wheel cleaner here. See if we can't shine this wheel up just a little. Polishing ball does wonders. Well, now that we've got the outside all, you know, clean, before we move inside and polish that off, we need to address these rust spots. So that's what we're doing here, and this is something that anybody can do. You don't need special skills for this. You just need a little common sense and you can get after it. So what I've done is I marked off an area and taped it off, sanded it. I had already done the etch primer on the actual rust, so I kind of avoided that area, but I sanded the rest of it real good and blew it off. And now what we're going to do is put some sandable primer on it so that we can sand that all off nice and smooth, and then we'll paint it. Now the trick with this is, after you paint it, before you clear coat it, you have to take this all off and buff your edges out, because you're going to build an edge where this tape is, and you're going to be able to see that if you don't do it that way. So I'll show you when we get there, but it's really not as hard as it seems to make, you know, an car look not so bad. And that's really all this is. This is not, you know, professional, and it's not really gonna improve the value that much. What it really does is takes visual distractions away. So when somebody walks up to the car, the first thing they're looking at is a rust spot. That's really what it comes down to. So let's get to it. Now that the primer is dried, I've got some really fine 600 grit sandpaper that we're going to sand this down with just to smooth it all out. You don't have to press real hard here, and be careful, because if you use just 2 fingers, you'll get lines in the primer right there. You got to do it as smooth as you can. And when you have a ridge like this edge right here, see how it's already started to rub here? You need to be careful, because you'll sand right through your primer there. So this doesn't require a lot of pressure or anything. You're really just kind of smoothing it out. Time for some paint, and this is satin silver metallic. Now at the parts store, they have, you know, like touch-up paint and cans, you know, little cans. And as long as you match your paint that was originally on your vehicle, which you can look up, it's not hard, you can paint stuff like this and it should match. So let's see. A trick I learned long ago to make an engine bay look better, especially one with all this plastic, or if you've got hoses, stuff like that, you spray it with some clear coat. Now, of course, you want to be careful you don't get this all over like belts and stuff. That'll make it squeal and whatnot. And you also want to be careful not to spray too much of it on like throttle linkages and stuff, because it'll make them stick. But everything else is pretty much fair game. And there you have it. Engine compartment. Looks like everything's brand new and well kept. All you need, simple can of clear coat, and away you go. One simple thing that's often overlooked is just to wipe down inside your doors, your jambs and stuff, because they get filthy and nasty looking. Just get yourself some cleaner and some rags, wipe them down, and next thing you know, it doesn't look like it's such a nasty car. Be afraid to really dig in there and get all the little nooks and crannies where all the dirt hides, and really clean it up and make it look nice. Weather stripping, everything. Wipe it all down. And then you end up with a much better looking car when you open the door. You're not like, ooh, that's gross. One thing we can do that'll make just a massive difference in here is where this old cloth panel has come off of here. It's a pretty bad eyesore. So I've actually gone to the fabric department over at Walmart, which is it's really a largely overlooked automotive treasure trove, and gotten just this piece of vinyl, you know, pleather, wannabe leather, and we're gonna put that on there just to make that look so much better. And it's not nearly as hard as you think it is. A little bit of patience and you can make it happen. So first step, you have to mask this off, because you have to spray this with adhesive and you don't want to get it all over the door panel. So we're going to start there. We've got that masked off. Now, of course, this, you want to clean this off well, because you don't want a bunch of the old adhesive and stuff on there. So I actually used the shop vac and just kind of scraped and got as much of it off of there as I could, and it's not very sticky anymore. So I think we're going to be all right. And then you get yourself some spray adhesive. I got this Gorilla Glue spray adhesive. I reckon that should do the job. And we're just gonna spray that on there. You want to get really good around the edges, because if it ever starts coming loose, that's probably going to be where it is. So that's where you really want the glue. Per the instructions in this, you let this tack up for about a minute or so, and then you can start applying the fabric. Now that this is tacked up a little bit, we're going to go ahead and start fitting this on there. And I cut them a little bit big, because this stuff, it's not expensive, so it's not a big deal if you waste a little bit. And that way you can be sure that you're going to get everything covered the way it should be. We're going to start right on this big empty spot right here. And just start kind of pushing it in there with your fingers and getting it in there pretty decent. And then we're going to take the putty knife and we're going to start really working it in to those edges. As you can see, we've got that worked in around the edges pretty well. Now this right here, where the door handle is, there isn't really an edge around it. So what you have to do is you cut and you leave a little bit of extra, and you can actually pry that up and just kind of tuck it in underneath. So that's what we're going to do right now, is cut that out so that we can finish working in all these edges around this, and then we'll start cutting all our excess. Don't be afraid to feel frequently to see where you are with the cuts, and check to make sure that you're actually making it all the way through. So we're making some progress here. Now we're going to go ahead and start peeling all this tape off so that we can make our final fitment around this door handle. I'm going to get a little screwdriver here and start getting in behind here. We're going to pry this out. Start stuffing this down in behind it. Notice it's starting to pull out up here, and that's fine because you really want to make sure you have enough to get all the way down in here. Then you can do this and pull from up above. That's why we cut up there last. And a lot of times, you know, it's not perfect, but by golly, we'll get it close enough that a normal person will never ever notice. And whenever you're doing this part, you just make sure that instead of pulling this down, you're pulling this in. So you kind of start out a little bit and then push it in like that. And that'll keep it from pulling down out of your door latch assembly. We are ready to cut the rest of it and make sure it's all pushed in there good. So rather than going and cutting straight in, you want to cut like this right on this outer edge, and what that does is it just leaves a little bit of a lip in there that you can finish tucking around. So that's what we're going to do. And we just need to peel any remaining tape out. And in these really tight spaces where you just can't get a putty knife, don't be scared to use a good flat blade screwdriver in here to really tuck this stuff in and make it really good and snug in there. There you have it. I mean, is it perfect? No. Is it 1,000 times better than it was? You bet. Let's go ahead and finish cleaning this thing. Well, we got this all spruced up. We need to clean it. So we're gonna go ahead and wipe her down here. Wow, that looks better. Now that we've got it all nice and clean in there, some generic floor mats from Walmart for like 15 bucks. And you can slap these in there and it'll look like new. Spectacular. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing how to make a very used car look, you know, kind of new. We're gonna go ahead and put this up for sale after I finish up the back of it there. And thanks for watching another episode of My Legacy Garage. We'll see you next time.